Hello.
I got a notification that
it says I'm live. Let's see if anybody's there. See us, hear us?
Yep, there's what says one person.
That could be you. All right,
8
somebody
people.
get back here. Okay.
Can you see us and hear
Hi
us?
guys, this is our 4th attempt. Some days technology is in our favor and other days it isn't. So just wait a moment to see if you can see and hear. We're going to be doing something with potatoes today.
Yum.
Yeah. Yum. Well,
Let me see. Hear
Quite
you,
well.
Cindy says.
she can hear. Okay, great. So we'll get started. Hey everybody, and welcome to episode 52 of Weight Loss Wednesday. I'm Chef AJ, the creator of the Ultimate Weight Loss Program, and this is where I answer your questions about healthy, permanent, and sustainable weight loss. So we're in the kitchen today with Eden because you guys asked for more recipes in time for the holiday. So I'm going to show a couple of recipes, and in between I'll answer your questions. So today's recipe is from Elspeth, and she has a wonderful ebook called Pardon My Turkey. You can get it at her website, thespeedyvegan.com. And her recipes are beautiful looking, and I'm sure they're going to be delicious tasting. So today we're going to do the roasted butternut soup. There you go. That's what it's supposed to look like.
So they're saying that we're sideways?
Or sideways.
I don't,
Okay.
you know, because it's showing up like that instead of like this. I don't know if there was something that was pushed.
That's why
Oh.
that's how come I like using the tripod better than the... I mean, I think you really should use the handheld one.
Well, I can, but
I mean, because ask them if
it's not going to make a difference.
Ask them if we're still sideways. Are we sideways? That was a movie, wasn't it?
Eden, turn the camera the other way. Yeah, but that's just going to make it... Yeah, see, it's
We're
not...
still sideways? How's
Are we
that?
still...
We can't still be sideways. We turned the camera.
You are sideways, sideways. You are not right side up. Yes, sideways, you are sideways.
Yeah, but that
So-
would be a delay. Why don't you look on your phone and see if I'm really sideways? Oh, this is just a
Jesus.
frustrating day. See, we need two
Oh,
people.
boy.
Okay, all right.
Oh, boy. Now they're seeing
They're saying better. See, it takes time. That's why. So we can't. We should. Okay. All right. Let's get started. All right. Some days-
All right.
So, hopefully I'm right side up now. So what we're going to do is we're going to do this recipe from the Speedy Vegan called Roasted Butternut Soup. And my favorite recipe of all the recipes I created might be my smoky butternut bisque. So when I saw another butternut squash recipe, I thought, I'm going to try this because she has a totally different flavor profile, spice profile. But what I do is what I do with every recipe is I just throw it in the Instant Pot, because who's got time to sit there and saute the onion and do all the chopping? So we're not going to do that. So what I'm doing is I am using my 3-quart Instant Pot, and I've already put the water in the Instant Pot so I could get it heated up a little bit. I have already roasted my butternut squash in my Breville, so it's right here. So this is already cooked, and I'm just going to put it in the Instant Pot. Oh, it smells so good. If you guys don't have an air fryer, I'm telling you, well, first you need an Instant Pot. That's the one that is non-negotiable. Everybody needs an Instant Pot just if they're going to eat healthy. But then the second most important appliance would be the air fryer, which we're going to use today. So I've got my butternut squash in there. Just rinse my hand. And then garlic. I never measure garlic. If it says 2 cloves, I just put in what I have. Can't go wrong with garlic, unless of course you're allergic. And my onion, I'm not going to cut it up because it's going to be blended. And then my spices. Now, this is not a pressure cooking recipe, and I'm just going to estimate what I think the time would be because everything is pretty much cooked except for the onion. So I am just going to do, let's see. You know, the thing about the Instant Pot is if for some reason I didn't cook it long enough, just add time. But I think that 5 minutes is plenty of time. Make sure it's on sealing. So we're going to let it go, and then when it's done, we're just going to puree it with the stick blender. Now, people keep asking me to do air fryer demos, but the problem is everything takes about 20 minutes in the air fryer, but this is perfect because I can answer your questions during that time. And the problem is I live in an apartment, and a lot of times when I use the air fryer, in addition to something else, the power blows. So we're just going to hope it doesn't do that. So what I'm doing is this is my original air fryer, the 5.3 quart that I used before I got the Breville. And because it's here and the Breville's there, we're going to use this one today. And it's got this little basket that those in there. There's very few pieces. So what I'm going to do first is I'm just going to preheat it, and if it blows, it blows, and no fries for you today. So I think the secret to crispy, crunchy air fries, the best French fries you've ever had from your air fryer, is to cook your potatoes first. And I recommend you cook them in a non-wet method. So as much as I love using my Instant Pot for steaming, I don't want wet fries. So I just microwave them because it's quick, it's easy, it doesn't heat up my oven. And if I'm just doing 2 potatoes, I'm sorry, I'm not going to turn on my oven or even use my Breville. It just seems like a waste of electricity. So you want to cook them first in a non-wet method, and then you refrigerate it. I don't know why it works like this. It was quite an accident. I came home from a trip. I always carry potatoes, and I had these cold potatoes, and I'm like, I don't want to eat that, and I don't want to microwave them. And I put them in the air fryer. When in doubt, put things in the air fryer. Always works. I don't know if it changes the level of resistant starch or what, but it's just a really great way to make crispy fries. So the 5.3 quart barely fits 2 potatoes, which is why if you're cooking for more than yourself, you're going to have to get a Breville, in my opinion, because that's a serving for me, 2 potatoes. It's not even a pound and a half of potatoes. So I've cooked them, I've chilled them, and I like to do steak fries. If I do them too small, then they can tend to burn, and what I do is each one I'm going to cut into thirds. So I'm going to have 12 fries. There we go.
And why does a wet method not work?
Because it's too wet, because it just doesn't work. I mean, it's the same thing with the potato waffles. I mean, it may work, but it's not going to be crunchy. And the whole point of, in my opinion, of doing air frying is so you get the absolute crunchiest potato without using any oil. And if it's wet, it may work, but you're going to have to cook it a lot longer. So I've got 12 pretty much equal size fries, and as soon as my air fryer preheats, I'm just going to put these in, and I'll show you what to do. And then while we're waiting for the fries to cook, which will take about 20 minutes, and the soup, which will take as long as it will take, that's when I'm going to answer your questions. So again, I'm going to start doing other people's recipes because you guys said it's a good idea, and I like to promote other people that make compliant, either strict UWL or UWL compatible recipes, like Kathy Fisher from Straight Up Food, who's given me permission to do some of her recipes on Weight Loss Wednesday, and Elspeth, who did this wonderful ebook just in time for Thanksgiving called Pardon My Turkey, which is available at speedyvegan.com. And if you just joined us, we are doing the roasted butternut soup. And I think maybe next week, if you guys like these little cooking segments, I'm going to try another one of her recipes, which is the creamy mushroom soup. So
Everyone is asking, how long do you put the potatoes in the microwave to cook them?
well, see, that's the thing. It varies depending on how big your microwave is, the power, the wattage, how many you're cooking. So I would imagine, let's see, I cooked more than these 2. I think I cooked 4, so it probably took me about 15 minutes because these were big potatoes and I was cooking 4. But again, everybody's microwave is different, guys. It's just you cook them until soft. And it's also great if you want to use one of these potatoes express. But like I said, I cooked 4 of them. So now it's preheated. And now I'm going to take my little basket here. And I'm going to arrange my fries carefully. Because remember, this is hot now. You could burn yourself if you do that. So you try to get them all to fit in nice. And again, if you want to season them, please do. They don't need anything. They certainly don't need salt. They're so good. They really don't need any seasoning at all, if you ask me. And see, it just barely fits this. I can barely get 2 potatoes in. That's why if you get the 3.2 quart, which was the first one I had and had to return, who eats 1 potato? All right, there we go. So now I just put it in. And I do everything the same. I don't read books. I don't have time to ask people questions on Facebook. I'm really not on Facebook except here. And I just push this middle home button, which says 15 minutes, which I know is not enough time for me because I like them super crunchy. And I just always put everything up to 400 because that's the highest it goes. The Breville goes higher. And then I'm going to put it up to about 22 minutes. I'm going to check it at some point. So there we go. And let's get started with the questions while we're waiting. I hope this isn't too noisy, so I'll try to speak a little louder.
Okay, so first question comes from Sharon. She said, could you give a few tips on maintenance mode? I am 2 pounds below my goal weight and I'm suddenly afraid to eat. I don't want to gain.
Right, I understand. That's a real concern, especially if you have a history of weight loss and then regaining it. I can totally relate to that. So if you're really afraid to eat to the point that you think you're developing an eating disorder or not eating, I would say immediately book a session with Dr. Doug Lyle at www.esteemdynamics.org. You could also listen to his weekly podcast called Beat Your Genes, which is actually on tonight, Wednesdays at 8:30 p.m. Pacific time. You could even call in. They always give priority to live callers. The thing about weight maintenance is that's where most people don't do such a great job, because most people can and do lose weight and have lost weight using many different dietary styles. But only about 2% of people that ever lose weight actually keep it off for more than 2 years. And I'm going into my 6th year now, so I'm pretty confident that I can eat and that I can eat a lot of this food. And I haven't had to weigh or measure my food or myself since losing weight. And so the thing about losing weight is that whatever you do to lose weight, hopefully you enjoy it and like the dietary style in the Ultimate Weight Loss Program, where we eat all we want, whatever we want, not whatever we want, but whatever we want to the left of the red line, as much as we want until comfortably full, because that's what you're going to have to do once you are in maintenance mode. Now, there's a chance you may not be able to eat I don't know how much weight you lost, but if you lost 50 pounds, when you were 50 pounds heavier, you needed more calories, and probably at least another 500 calories a day. If you're really concerned, my question would be, are you exercising? Because exercise is actually more important to weight maintenance than it is to weight loss. And if you're exercising on a regular basis, you don't have to worry about regaining your weight if you're eating the same way you ate when you lost the weight. So you didn't say what you did to lose weight, but whatever you did, if you just keep doing it, you're not going to gain weight. The problem is most people go on diets just to eventually go off diets, and they wonder why they didn't work. So whether it's like a Weight Watchers or a weighing and measuring, as long as you continue to do it, you will not put the weight back on. But it's if you start changing things and then adding back in things that you weren't eating to lose weight, then it's very possible you will. But give it some time. It's if you're what I call the nouveau thin, of course there's going to be some anxiety around this, especially if you have lost weight before only to put it back on. But what did you do the times that you put it back on? Were you following the exact same eating style that you were following to lose weight, to maintain weight? So don't be afraid to eat, and don't develop an eating disorder because of this. Just keep eating the way you were eating. You know, if you understand calorie density, which is the foundation of the Ultimate Weight Loss Program, then you will not gain weight. You can't gain weight eating to the left of the red line. Now, it's possible that you will not lose weight eating to the left of the red line, especially if you're overeating, but you absolutely will not gain weight. It's only if you start adding back in the processed foods, the sugar, the flour, the alcohol, the chocolate, the dried fruit, the nuts and seeds and avocado, and the oils or the animal products, that you could possibly gain weight. And you don't just keep losing ad infinitum, meaning you get to a point where your body finds its natural healthy weight. Even if you keep eating this way, you don't keep losing and losing. And if you feel that you do, which so far I've never seen that happen to anyone, then you could consider adding in an ounce of nuts or seeds a day, or just eating more food in general, particularly starches. If you're sequencing your meals, which is what we recommend in the Ultimate Weight Loss Program, whether you're at goal weight or not, which means you're starting every meal with a pound of raw salad, and then a nice huge serving, maybe even up to a pound of steamed grains before you eat your more calorically dense starches, there's no way you're going to gain weight. So I understand the anxiety surrounding that. Most of us have it or have had it, but just trust the fact that if you keep eating what you ate to lose this weight, you will maintain your weight and you won't keep losing more weight. And if you do, again, talk to Dr. Doug Lyle. He is really the expert in this, or Dr. Goldhammer, but he doesn't really do private consults. So you just need some time to reassure yourself that this is the time, especially if you lost the weight in a healthful manner, like following the Ultimate Weight Loss Program.
Gloria asked if you can clarify what you mean when you say, do the least restrictive program you can do. When she does that, she gains weight, or at least she doesn't lose. Do you think that it's helpful to tell people that?
Yeah, so it is a very good question, and I'm trying to think of the best way to answer this. Bailey's going to help me answer this question. So if somebody is, and I don't like this word fail, but this is the word they use, if somebody is failing miserably at a weight loss program. The last thing you want to do is tell them to up their game and be stricter. So a lot of times people aren't doing well, and then they'll do a more strict program, like the weighing and measuring program, where the opposite needs to happen, at least according to Dr. Lyle, if you've heard the talk he gave about the ego trap and the pleasure trap. Because what happens sometimes, often, is that a program is deemed as too restrictive or too difficult for the person following it, and they can't do it. They can't live up to the expectations that really it's that other people have for them when doing the program, and so they don't even try. And then not only don't they try, but it's the example of like when you get a flat tire, they slash the other 3 tires to go, see, I'm not trying, I'm failing on purpose, I'm eating all this crap. See, it's not that I can't do the program, look, I'm not even trying. And so if somebody's in that mindset, which is called the ego trap, then the idea is to just have them do a little bit better. And Dr. Lyle's lecture about the continuum of evil addresses this, where he goes from like an A, B, C, D, E, F. If somebody is eating an F diet, like McDonald's every meal, you can't ask them to do the ultimate weight loss program or Dr. Goldhammer's diet. It's not going to be a reasonable jump to go from an F to an A. But you can ask people to generally do a little bit better. And so what that means when I tell people to do that is that what I'm telling them is to not go back to the addictive substances that I believe that if you are a food addict and somebody trying to lose weight, you should be abstinent from, probably permanently, the sugars, the flours, and alcohol. But maybe include some of the higher fat plant foods that are very pleasurable to people, the nuts, the seeds, and avocado. And so I would say, like my book Unprocessed is a perfect example of when people feel that the ultimate weight loss program is too restrictive, is to do that, because they may not lose weight if they do a less restrictive program, but they'll certainly gain health, they'll gain arterial health, and by not including the sugar and flour, they'll gain that calm, stable brain from where they were before, which was feeling like they're going crazy, binging or eating sugar and flour. You know, even 14 pounds, if you hold it long enough, it gets a little bit heavy. Mm-hmm. And so the truth is, one of my mentors, Dr. Goldhammer, says that a flexible program or a more flexible approach rarely works. But when somebody is caught in the ego trap, at least that's what Dr. Lyle says that I need to say to them to help them crawl out of this place called the ego trap. The problem is that when they crawl out of the ego trap doing a less restrictive program, especially if that program is including foods that are trigger foods for them or addictive foods, is then they still stay in the pleasure trap. So the ego trap and the pleasure trap are actually at odds with each other, because the truth is the most restrictive diet is the one that's guaranteed to get you the lean body that you want and the calm, stable brain. But unfortunately, not everyone in every moment in their life is able to do it. And this is wherein the problem lies. We know the program works if you do it, but what we don't know is why certain people are able to do it and other people are not able to do it. And this is, again, a great question for Dr. Lyle. This is where the psychology comes in. You know, a lot of people have said, and they've said it too, right in front of me, to Dr. Lyle or Dr. Goldhammer, well, I'm in ultimate weight loss and I do everything AJ says and I can't lose weight. And then they go to True North, and not to fast, they just go and they eat and they lose weight. Now, is it because there's some kind of magical vortex in Santa Rosa, or is it because maybe they really weren't doing the program the way it was designed? Oh, that's the Instant Pot just beeped, which means it's 5 minutes and the soup will be ready. So what is restrictive to one person may not be restrictive to another person, depending on the person's personality. But I do believe that when I say do the least restrictive program you can do, there's a caveat you can do to get the results you want. Because everyone can do an easy program. It's very easy to do what is easy. But I can't guarantee that the less restrictive program is going to get you the results you want, especially if you want to be really lean. Some of them will make you less fat, and certainly if it's a whole food plant-based program, even if it's just without oil, you're going to improve your health, you're going to improve your arteries. But unfortunately, the more liberal program, especially if you're somebody that's been overweight or obese and suffered with food addictions most of your life, it may not be enough to get you as lean as you want to be. And if it's including addictive foods like sugar and flour and alcohol, or trigger foods, which for some people are the high-fat foods, the nuts, seeds, avocado, and chocolate, it may not get you to not have cravings. And so there are people that do less restrictive programs that even have sugar and flour, and they get results. But they're probably not food addicts, is my guess. Because if you could have done a less restrictive program and got the body you wanted, you probably would have done it already. And so that's why we ask people to up their game in the Ultimate Weight Loss Program and do the A+ diet. Not that you'll always be able to maintain it or achieve it, but the good news is if you do it, we know it works because it never hasn't worked. The thing is this is the 64,000, or what's that game show, $64 million question. Not everybody can do it. And I think what could be beneficial is just to know what kind of person you are, so that you don't feel like you're failing if you can't do it, because there are people that can do it. And once you do it, it's actually fairly easy. It's just getting your footing, getting started. What happens is it takes a while for that taste neuroadaptation to occur on a diet that is free of SOFAs, the sugar, oil, flour, alcohol, salt. And so most people don't give it enough time. And while they're trying to neuroadapt, they're still eating at other people's houses, they're still going to restaurants, so they're keeping those addictive tastes alive. That's why if we can get you 30 days in with perfect compliance, or get you to True North where you either eat the food there or water fast so that the neuroadaptation happens sooner, you often can do it. Unfortunately, even if you do it, there's other forces that work against you, not just the pleasure trap, but this whole social thing. We have Thanksgiving coming up next week, and there's going to be people trying to get you to eat food that you really don't want to eat, and you're not going to be able to say no. So it really is a difficult problem. As I interviewed Dr. Lyle last week, he said he's surprised anybody can even do it. It's that hard. So again, do the best you can, but realize that while going from an F or a D diet to a C or a B diet may get you out of the ego trap, it may not be enough to get you out of the pleasure trap, and it'll be enough probably to reverse your common diseases of lifestyle. Sometimes autoimmune disease requires a stricter dietary approach, but unfortunately, if you do B work, you get B results, and if you want an A+ body, you kind of have to eat an A+ diet, but it really just depends. There's no right or wrong. You get to choose, how slender you want to be or not. So sorry if I ramble, but it's one of those questions that I'm not sure has a perfect answer.
No, it's a good answer.
Well, thank you. I'm going to just check this out for
Okay.
just a second. So you can see that these are starting to brown
Ooh,
really
those look
nicely.
perfect to
I'm
me.
going to turn them in a little bit, but I'm going to keep going a little bit. All right, go ahead. It's so fun cooking.
So someone asked, instead of beating people up for not having a clean environment, why don't you support them in the environment they are in? Divorce is not an option for most of us.
Well, I wasn't aware that I was beating people up. I do remember hearing that Dr. Walter Kempner, who founded the Rice Diet at Duke University, actually did beat his patients. So
Wow.
I really don't remember beating people up. So I do support everyone that wants my support, regardless of their environment. But I don't know how I can help you in an unclean environment. And instead of using the energy to get mad at me for being the person that brings this news to the village, it's like you're killing the messenger because you don't like the message. Why not spend that time and energy trying to clean up your environment the best you can? Recently in our private Facebook group, I was at the Hilton Head, the Remedy Food Conference at Hilton Head. Benji Kurtz does a fabulous job doing conferences. And Dr. Thomas Campbell spoke, and a lot of what he spoke about was weight loss and food addiction. And he said something at the conference. He said, the Instant Pot is ready. No, he didn't say that. He said, if you have temptation anywhere in your environment, you will fail. And so I put this in our private group, in quotes, saying that if you have temptation anywhere in your environment, you will fail. And I attributed the quote to him, Dr. Campbell, and boy, did it create a shitstorm of people getting mad at me.
Yep.
So, just to interrupt for 1 sec, this is ready, so I'm going to release the pressure while I talk. It's a little bit noisy in here. I'll try to speak louder. I'm going to ask you guys a question. If you were an asthmatic, or you had some kind of lung disease, and your spouse smoked cigarettes, would you want them to be smoking in the house? Now, I know we can't, if somebody's an adult, can't really tell them or force them what to do. But if you suffer from lung disease and you live in a house where people smoke, how do you expect to overcome the lung disease? It's sort of like if you were diagnosed with lung cancer and your doctor told you this, would you say to the doctor then, okay, now how many cigarettes can I smoke now? And what kind can I smoke? And when you refuse to clean up your environment, you're making it so that my hands are tied. I don't know how to help you overcome an environmental disease if I can't change your environment, because food addiction is a disease of the environment. It's just the way it is, like it or not. I didn't make up the rules, and I've interviewed so many medical doctors, psychiatrists, psychologists, and they all say the same thing, that the environment is the #1 predictor of your success, that you must work harder on the environment than you do yourself. I'm telling you what they said. Now, I know this also to be true for me as somebody who's lost 50 pounds now and kept it off for almost 6 years. But let's just go under the premise that they're right, that all these doctors that say this, Dr. Saunders, Dr. Lyle, Dr. Goldhammer, all the doctors I've interviewed, let's just say they're right. Just play with me for a minute. So let's just say they're right, that the environment will predict your success. If you're not going to clean up the environment, then how can I help you? I mean, I can support you, I can love you, but I don't know how to help you overcome a disease in the same environment that got you sick in the first place. I don't have the answer. Now, the people in the Ultimate Weight Loss Program, we tell them that you have to work all the other aspects of the program harder. It doesn't mean that you will fail if you have an unclean environment. But I've over 2,000 people I've worked with now, I've only seen one succeed in an unclean environment, and she had a very disagreeable personality. I remember when she looked at the intake form that I give people when they have a private consult, one of the questions is, are you a people pleaser? And she answered the question, fuck people. So with that personality, she was able to succeed in an unclean environment. And also, she made an agreement with herself that if it ever got to the point where her recovery was in jeopardy or weight gain was happening because of the unclean environment, she would renegotiate with the partner, and if the partner said no, she would leave. And so I think that created a little bit of security or safety around that, knowing that if it wasn't going to work for her, she was willing to change it. If you came to Vegas, you heard my lecture about the John Pierre and I did about the reboot checklist, and we went over 10 things that you need to do. If you don't have a clean environment, which is the most important, you're going to have to do the other 9 even more diligently. But the problem is most of these behaviors, most of the people in the program that are still overweight and suffering aren't doing. They are not doing any discernible exercise on a regular basis, which is one of the best things you can do to overcome food addiction. You know, exercise is not only something that's been proven to help prevent an addiction from occurring in the first place, but can actually rewire the brain in order to overcome an addiction. So if you're in an unclean environment, my first question is how much exercise are you doing? How much vigorous exercise are you doing first thing in the day to set the tone for the day, to increase your self-esteem? So, and the thing is most people, the answer is none, unfortunately, just in the entire world in general, but Ultimate Weight Loss specifically. Are you doing other things to help calm and balance your brain? Are you doing meditation on a regular basis or other type of mindfulness? Are you using the tools that John Pierre teaches in the Ultimate Weight Loss Program? Are you using your green powders and sipping them all day to keep alkaline and fight cravings? Are you using proper essential oils at the proper time to fight cravings? Are you looking at your vision board? Is it on your phone? Is it everywhere around you? So, are you using the program? Are you looking for support when you need it? Are you participating? Things like that. And the thing is most people are not doing the other aspects of the program in addition to not having the clean environment. But the thing is are you even cleaning the environment to your best of your ability? I can't tell you how many people in Ultimate Weight Loss will not even ask the people in their family. Now, it's different if you're with people. Now, first of all, I don't think if they're children, they should get a vote. You know, you didn't see this interview because it was to the mastery program, but Dr. Goldhammer was saying, because a lot of people say, oh, well, my child has such and such a disorder, and if I don't feed them, you know, macaroni, cheese, and chicken nuggets and all this food, you know, they have texture issues, they won't eat. Dr. Goldhammer says 32 years, over 30,000 patients, he has never seen a child not eat if the only option was healthy food. And he said, if that happens to any of your children and their BMI gets to 16, he would personally like to talk to you. But So that's one thing. I don't think children should get a vote, especially if they're adult children living at home or underage children. But the thing is so many people, the women and maybe even some of the men in the Ultimate Weight Loss Program, have never even asked their family members to eat non-compliant foods in the house. It'd be different if you asked them and you said no. But But so many people say, well, oh, I could never ask. I couldn't. Why can't you ask? If this is your loved one, if your partner, your husband, or whatever, or your children who want you hopefully to be healthy, what I'm not understanding is why can't you even ask? And I think that has to do a lot with self-esteem. But I can't figure that out. People get mad when I say a loving partner or a loving family will support someone in recovery. And again, these are not my words. I mean, I'm saying them, but this is what I learned from all the interviews with the addiction specialists and the psychiatrists and the psychologists and Dr. Lyle. Because the truth is, they will. You are not asking your family members to eat the way you are. Again, that would be a disaster. I mean, unless you're a parent, it'd be different. You could probably insist that your kids eat this way, especially if they're young and they can't drive and they don't have money. You're not asking them to eat any way that you're eating. They can eat all the crap they want. There's 24 hours a day, and they're outside of the home, a lot of it. You're simply asking them to give you the gift of at least 30 days to see if it makes a difference of having a clean environment. And most people have not had a problem negotiating that. And I've offered to Skype for free for people in the Ultimate Weight Loss Program to their families to explain the gravity of the situation, why the environment is so important, and nobody takes me up on it. And they don't take me up on it because most of them have not even asked their spouse to do this, to try for 30 days. Now, in the testimonials in Vegas, we had the husbands come up and say, I don't understand why you wouldn't want your wife to be happy, why you wouldn't want to help her get well, or if it was a husband. So if you absolutely refuse to even enter this conversation, we've taught you, at least in Ultimate Weight Loss, maybe not on Weight Loss Wednesday, there's other things you can use. You can buy the locked food safes, preferably the ones that aren't see-through, and then you can at least ask them to please put the non-compliant food in there. You can get a separate refrigerator, a separate cabinet with a lock on it so that at least you're not visually tempted by these foods. If that's a no, you could get brown paper bags and put all their non-compliant food. But the truth is the people that are failing because of their environment, they haven't done any of this. And for the most part, they haven't even asked their spouse if they would give them the gift of 30 days of a clean environment. I am not saying that you will fail in an unclean environment. But I will tell you that everybody that succeeded has a clean environment. And in the 2,000 people I've worked with now in the last 10 years, I've actually only seen one person succeed. And by succeed, I mean she lost all the weight she wanted to lose and is very slender now, and she seems to be dealing really well with the cravings. This is such a hard thing to do already, losing weight and keeping it off. As Dr. Goldhammer says, you have a better chance of curing yourself of stage 4 cancer than overcoming food addiction or losing weight. It is so hard already. Why would you want to make it any harder? One of the tenets of the Ultimate Weight Loss Program is if it's in your house, it's in your mouth. And there's no exceptions to that, unfortunately. It's not a question of if you will eat it, just when. And if there's non-compliant food anywhere in the environment, your brain knows it's there. And like Dr. Lyle said last week on the interview, we're designed genetically to eat the most rich food, the most concentrated food in the environment. And if your brain knows it's there, it will not rest until you eat that food. And you may be able to use willpower for a little bit of time to try to resist it, but the minute something happens emotionally, you're in that jar of peanut butter. That's just the way it is. It's not you. You're genetically designed that way. And if there's no rich food in the environment, you can't eat it. You can't eat something that's not there, and it takes zero willpower to not eat something that's not there. And a lot of people say, oh, but I'm ethical vegan and it's okay. My husband has cheese pizza and ice cream, but it's not vegan, so I won't eat it. That's true. You may not eat the non-vegan stuff, but guess what? You see it in there, you know it's there, and then you start thinking, boy, they have vegan pizza now with cheese. I can get it at the store. I can get ice cream. So
true.
Instead of fighting me on this, why don't you let me help you by talking to your family members and just negotiate just an experiment for 30 days. Because what's interesting is when I've actually talked to spouses, I've said, well, if I gave you $5,000, would you do this for 30 days? And they go, hell yeah. Well, if they'll do it for $5,000, why won't they do it to love and support you? So, not trying to be mean, I'm trying to help you. And unless every expert that I've interviewed in food addiction and psychology and psychiatry is wrong, this is the way it is. Food addiction is an environmental disease. And to cure an environmental disease, you have to fix the environment. If you were an alcoholic, would you then go back to your job at a bar? I mean, you might, but you probably wouldn't be successful. If you've been in rehab, you know you can't keep alcohol in your house. So why is it different than food? If you were an alcoholic, would your spouse and family insist on keeping alcohol in the house? How is this any different? I ask you. I don't think it is. So it's a tough one. Clean up the environment. You'll see that this will be so much easier. And I know people say, well, my environment work. Of course, everywhere you are is your environment. And we can't control every environment we're in. But hopefully our home can be a sanctuary and we can at least control what's going on in our home. And there are ways to negotiate this. You know, people say, oh, well, if I asked my husband, he would divorce me. Really, if you asked your husband, say, honey, I love you so much. I love being married to you. I want to be around for a long time, but I have this disease and I really need your help. Help me overcome it. So do you think for 30 days you could please, just for 30 days, if it doesn't work, we'll go back to the way they are, things were, but just for 30 days, do you think you could please eat these foods that are so troublesome to me that I can't resist outside the home? If you said that in a kind, loving way to your husband, he'd say, no, I want a divorce. So if that's the case, then having crap in your environment is probably not your worst problem. So look at these, my friends. Now I think I want to make them crispier, so I'm going to knock them out there. And
you're doing them even more?
Well, I'm not going to do them anymore, but I want to get the side crispy. But look at Eden. Do you want to eat one and crunch and show them how crunchy it is? I should have turned them sooner, but you can see how crunchy these are. Oh my God. I'm only going to do them a couple minutes to get the parts. I should have turned them.
They're going to be burned if you do.
Okay, then I'll stop, but you're the one that's eating. Oh, look at this one.
Exactly. I'm going to have to
eat it on the air so they can hear how crunchy it is.
Ow, it's hot.
Oh my God, it's amazing. So here we go. I'm just going to do it for a couple more minutes to get the sides going. And I'm going to.
Do you guys hear the crunch?
Oh my God. So I'm going to just put it just for a few minutes to get it even
So
crunchy.
not just for me to eat, guys, but okay.
So now, let's see what's going on with the soup before we get to the next question.
Oh, so good, you guys.
Unbelievable, right? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take what's known as...
Yeah, those are definitely done.
I'm going to take what's known as the stick blender or the immersion blender, and I am going to do this right in the Instant Pot, so there's no need to cut anything up. Okay, that's so good. And I think the fact that I roasted the butternut squash first will give it even more flavor. That's why I didn't worry about sauteing the onion, because I had roasted the butternut squash. Oh boy, this smells really, really good. I'm using the 3-quart Instant Pot. If you don't have one, go to their website, instantpot.com. You can get $10 off with my name, AJ. The code is only $10 now. Sorry that they lowered it. Oh, you can see how thick this is. Yum. And that didn't take long at all. And we've got dinner, by the way. So there we go. Just make sure when you use the stick blender, you keep it down. Because if you lift it up while it's on, you will burn yourself with hot soup. So there we go. You know what? Maybe I'll serve a little bit now. Eden can have some, and then I'll answer the next. Are there any more questions?
Yep. Alright. So.
Okay. Eden's choking on the fries. There we go. Oh, beauty.
Wow.
Oh, guys,
amazing. Oh my God.
Amazing balls. Eden gets to eat these along with her soup. She is a volunteer.
I'm a lucky
Her and
woman.
Kenny, they work for food, and then we'll give them a little soup to go.
You guys,
with
if you are a salt addict too, by the way, which I think a lot of people are, but they don't realize they are, Benson's Table Tasty, which AJ promotes all the time, would be amazing on these fries.
So let me just, yeah, Benson's is great. And she's coming up with a couple new flavors. She said to sprinkle it with a fresh thyme. I don't have it, so I just put a little parsley. Look at that. Thank you, Elspeth.
It's
from
steaming.
the
Yum,
Speedy
yum, yum.
Vegan. So Eden, you can eat that whenever you want. And I will continue. Oh my God, how do you not eat these, guys? Look at these.
I know.
Oh my God. Got to get an air fryer.
So Grace
And
is
an
new
Instant
to
Pot.
UWL,
Well, welcome then.
and she says, I've lost 10 pounds so far my first month
Very
eating
good.
potatoes. That's incredible.
That's good, because usually women, it's 1 to 2 pounds a week. So
I mean, we could
excellent.
change America if we could tell people they could lose weight eating potatoes.
I know, eating French
tell
fries all day.
She said, my question is, why do you think that there are so many people in the program who insist that they are not food addicts? What other explanation is there for them being overweight? I was thrilled when I found you and learned that food addiction was a real thing. that there was nothing wrong with me and that there was something that I could do about it.
You're getting me from the top, right? I'm wearing, like, my shoes don't match my outfit today. So I think about that quote from Shakespeare. I don't remember which play, but he said, "Methinks thou doth protest too much." And in my experience, the people that resist the label of food addict the most are usually the most addictive. And I thought about your question for a long time. And what I think is, if they embrace the concept that they're a food addict and claim that, then they're going to have to be abstinent. And most people don't want to do that. You see, the only thing that has ever worked for an addiction is abstinence from the addictive substance. Moderation has never worked, at least when somebody's addicted. It rarely works anyway, but it certainly doesn't work for an addiction. And so when we say food addiction, we're saying refined food addiction, processed food addiction, specifically sugar, flour, and alcohol. In Ultimate Weight Loss, we do all with SOFA: sugar, oil, flour, alcohol, salt, because oil is still a processed food, and even though salt's not a processed food, it doesn't exist in nature in concentrated forms. And there are some people in Ultimate Weight Loss that can have a little bit while they're losing, or even after they've lost their weight. It's not such a trigger for them, but in general, when in doubt, leave it out. And by taking out these addictive substances, people tend to lose weight faster, neuroadapt quicker, and get their cravings at bay quicker. And so I think, at least the people I know that say, "I'm not a food addict," it's sort of like that movie Flight with Denzel Washington, one of my favorite movies. That's really where I learned that I was a food addict and that I sought treatment for it. But in the movie, he's clearly an alcoholic and a drug addict. And his girlfriend is trying to get him to go to AA, and he is like just drunk out of his mind. He's like, "I'm not an alcoholic. I'm not an alcoholic. I just choose to drink." So it's sort of like these people are saying, "I'm not a food addict. I just choose to eat sugar and flour and be overweight." So the thing is it once you embrace the notion that you're an addict, to me that's very empowering, because once I discovered that food addiction was a real thing and that I just wasn't crazy for having these cravings and constantly thinking about food and having to eat sugar from the minute I woke up till the time I went to bed, and even if I was full and sick, that's all I thought about is when I was going to eat it again. When I found out that food addiction was a real thing, I rejoiced, because now that it was a disease, I knew there was a cure. Unfortunately, the cure is abstinence. And most people aren't willing to do abstinence, whether it's for a brief period of, say 30 days, or certainly not the rest of your life. In last week's, we call them live interactions with our mastery program, that's all we talked about is abstinence, how we define it, what it means to us, and if people are willing to do it. So I think that when people won't, and again, it doesn't matter to me, a lot of people don't like the word food addict. People don't like the word addict because they conjure up some heroin addict in the alley, shooting up or something. The word is what it is, and I have my own personal definition for it, which makes me feel good, because I don't think of it as deprivation. I think of it as just avoiding things that I'm basically in some ways allergic to, things that made me fat and sick. So when people don't want to admit that they're food addicts, I think because there's still shame with this disease, because it's not yet in the medical literature widely understood, widely accepted. And maybe that's why they don't talk to their families about cleaning up their environment, because then they feel that it might be some kind of a moral weakness to be an addict, where it's not. It's a biogenetic disease that you were born with. It's not your fault, just like alcoholism, but it's your responsibility once you know you have this vulnerability to do something about it if you wish to recover. And so by saying that you're not an addict means you don't have to do what addicts do to recover, which is abstinence from the things you're addicted to. So that's why I think people do it. But I notice that the people that bark the loudest are the ones that are really suffering the most, struggling the most, gaining the weight continually, even though they're trying to do it, because the one thing they won't do is abstinence. And if your program's not working, why not give abstinence a try? Abstinence, in my opinion, and for everybody that has recovered and has lost the weight, abstinence is bliss. And the things that we're asking you to be abstinent from in the Ultimate Weight Loss Program, they're not food anyway. Sugar, oil, flour, alcohol, salt, these aren't foods. These are chemicals that we add to the food that fool the brain satiety mechanisms that make most people fat and sick and addicted and cause cravings. So it's not like we're asking you to do something, it sounds extreme, but when you think about the dietary style of the Ultimate Weight Loss Program, the rest of the world is just food. I mean, they say it's so extreme. You don't use oil, you don't use salt, you don't use flour, sugar. Well, it's processed food. I wrote about this 10 years ago on Unprocessed. There's parts of the world. I met people from Ethiopia and Uganda now that don't eat processed food. They might eat a little animal products, but they don't think it's so weird. You know, throughout most of human history, people ate the dietary style of the Ultimate Weight Loss Program with some of the richer plant foods and some animal products, and they didn't call it a food addiction treatment program or a weight loss program. They called it food. That's what it was throughout most of human history. So I think when people don't want to say they're an addict, I think it's because they're ashamed, embarrassed, or they don't want to say that because, look, if you admit you're an alcoholic, then what are you going to do? What's the treatment for alcoholism? Well, it's abstinence from alcohol. And most people aren't willing to do that because these foods are so addictive. And it's funny because the foods that the people say it's always like, well, the program's too restrictive. Well, how is the Ultimate Weight Loss Program too restrictive? You can have all the French fries you want. When they say it's restrictive, what they're really saying, well, I'm failing because it's so hard, it's so restrictive. What they're basically saying is, no, I don't like it because I can't have the foods I'm addicted to. Exactly. And that's what they're saying. And unfortunately, it's like a vicious circle. You know, you can't get a job. I can't get a job on Broadway till you get a job on Broadway, and it's the same thing. You can't recover from food addiction until you're abstinent, and you're probably never going to be abstinent if you'll think you have a problem with food addiction. So, exists on a continuum. Some people more or less vulnerable. It's not like an A1C or a blood pressure where there's a certain number and oh wow, you're addicted. I think you kind of know it's a self-diagnosed thing, but I think that finding out this was a disease was the most empowering thing, and what I've done for the people that I've been able to help, that have been able to follow the program, is to bring this news to the village, and they're so thankful that they realize that there's nothing wrong with them. It's the way their brain was wired from birth. They probably had addiction in their family, low D2 receptivity, things like that. But if you want to recover, abstinence is the way, and doing all those other recovery activities we talk about, like exercise, meditation, yada, yada, yada. You're probably sick of hearing from me. So any questions from the board? Or
Yes, so Sandra just commented, and she said, I just told my husband that I want/need to clean out the non-compliant foods, and his exact words were, you need to have better control.
Yeah, well, that's, first of all, I applaud you for having the conversation. First of all, thank you for at least, trying to open the door. That's very sad. It's dismissive. That would hurt my feelings if my husband felt that way. I'm assuming your husband's not a food addict, whether he's overweight or not. But, there is some research to show that anybody that's at least 10 pounds overweight may have some vulnerability to this. When I first realized I was a food addict and there were certain foods I couldn't have in the house, specifically the chips, even though they were oil-free baked chips, and salt-free too, by the way, and the nuts and the seeds, I told my husband, this would have been now in 2012, almost, is that 5 or 6 years ago, and he said, oh, don't worry, hon, I'll hide them. Well, I live in a 1,000 square foot apartment, and so you can imagine how that went, because I found it, just like the mouse is going to find wherever the cheese is hidden. And he didn't understand food addiction. This was 5 or 6 years ago. None of us really did back then, and it wasn't until I started getting treatment for it. And so he said, okay, well, I'll take it to work. And so he takes his nuts and his chips to work, and if I'm out of town, which is frequently, he'll bring it in, but he's very respectful when I'm away to make sure it's not there, because he knows if it is, it's going in the trash, and it's not actually going in the trash, it's going in the garbage disposal, because the problem is those of you that suffer from food addiction, just because it's in the trash doesn't mean we're not going to eat it.
Exactly.
Dr. Lyle says we're raccoons. But here's the thing. I'm happy to talk to him. As far as self-control, can an alcoholic have self-control in a bar if they have a disease called alcoholism? I mean, it's kind of insensitive, if you ask me, that he said that. But the thing is if you could have controlled this, you would have. So I think it's insensitive, and I don't know where to go from there other than maybe suggesting a session with Dr. Lyle, or maybe you have one, a 30-minute session. But it's sad. I mean, just tell him, I've tried, honey. I've tried for years and I don't have self-control. You're right. I'm weak. I'm not you. Therefore, please humor me just for 30 days. Let's see if it makes a difference. If it doesn't, we can always go back to it. But I think it's selfish. No offense to your husband, but I think it's really selfish that he would not support you and that he would even say that. But I'm not a marriage counselor, and I don't want to get involved in somebody's marriage. I just want you guys to have the body that you deserve and the calm, stable brain. And honestly, I don't know another way to get it. Now, if there's people out there, whether you're in ultimate weight loss or not, that have been able to meet your health and weight loss goals without struggling from having these foods, let me hear from you. Really, email me. Let me interview you on a Facebook Live how you did it so we can help people. I'm not this mean person that try to like get you to get divorced or upset your life. The people that have recovered from food addiction, regardless of their weight, so many people, the thing I hear most in ultimate weight loss is when people understand food addiction and recover from that, the monkey they've had on their back their whole lives, they say, oh, thank you for telling me about this. I thought I was flawed. I thought there was something wrong with me. And I feel so good. I feel so calm. My brain is stable. I'm able to do my job. I'm not thinking about when I'm going to eat next and what I'm going to eat next. And what they've actually said to me, and I remember saying this too to Charles when I had only lost 20 of these 50 pounds, I said, I feel so good in my brain. It's like a switch was shut off. That even if I didn't lose another ounce, I would choose to eat this way forever because of how it makes me feel. And that is what I want for you guys, because I know, look, I've never been more than 200 pounds, but I was the fat kid growing up. I was bullied, I was teased, I was fat from the age of 5, obese 11. I know how hard it is to be overweight, especially if you're female. And I want you guys to know that there's a way out, and you can feel good and you can look good. Is it difficult? Yes. Is it impossible? No, because you get to eat all the french fries you want. Does it take willpower? No. It doesn't take willpower unless the food's in your house that you're trying to resist. Because here's the thing, Sandra. Willpower is only required when you have to make a decision. And you don't ever have to decide to not eat something that isn't there. But it does take diligence and it takes perseverance. And if you think it's hard, go to the Butterfly Effect Vegan Weight Loss and look at Heather Goodwin, who's lost 300 pounds. With all the odds against her, and it wasn't the first time she's lost that much weight. Yes, it is very difficult, but I will tell you, I've never had a client that lost the weight, that gained the peace of mind from reversing the food addiction and having the calm, stable brain, that said it wasn't worth it. And if I could give you the gift of either moving in with me or going to True North to show you that the reason I am such a stickler on the environment is because it really does make a difference. But until the environment's clean, you may never know. And I wish you the best of success if you have this environment, but again, then you've got to do everything else required to recover about 100 times harder. So if there's no more questions, we want to eat our french fries.
Nope, we're all done.
All right, well guys, please go to my website, eatunprocessed.com, to submit your questions, sign up to be on my mailing list. If you live in the OC, the whole food plant-based meetup that Zena and Shada do is this Saturday at 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. The speaker is my partner, John Pierre. I have a hands-on holiday cooking class on November 28th at Chef's Inc., where I'm making all holiday recipes. If you need more holiday recipes, you can go to Speedy Vegan and get this wonderful ebook called Pardon My Turkey. All the recipes are either compliant with the Ultimate Weight Loss Program or very, very, very close. I wouldn't endorse something that I personally wouldn't eat. Then True North, the end of the year. I don't know if we have any openings for the holiday extravaganza. So thank you so much for watching episode 52 of Weight Loss Wednesday. I'm Chef AJ, and I truly believe you can have both the health and the body you so richly deserve, but you're gonna have to clean your environment. Take care, everybody.